What is it about the city of Manchester? Why can we not win in the city of Manchester? The last Villa player to score a game-winning goal in the city of Manchester was at Old Trafford, Courtney Haas, September of 2021. What's it going to take? A new priest, an old priest, a shaman, some kind of exorcism ritual? Because we're going to need to do something. We have our last game of the season at Old Trafford, and that could prove to be pivotal. Later, I'll look ahead to the huge FA Cup semi-final clash with Crystal Palace. I'll try to predict who's going to start. In the meantime, presented by 24/7 Services, let's do a forensic autopsy on yet another loss at the Etihad. City 2, Villa 1. I have to tell you, I marvel at the traveling supporters. I mean, the people that go all the time. And it's not just the cost or the time involved. It's the emotional energy that you have to expend during those trips. Going all that way and having your team lose deep into stoppage time. Like, how could you keep doing that over and over again? I was at that fixture last year. It was a very long and quiet 2.5-hour bus ride home to get to Birmingham in the middle of the night. And I just thought to myself, bless you for doing this week in and week out. When the fixture list comes out and you see Manchester United, Man City, Newcastle, Crystal Palace at that fortress, Selhurst Park, do you look at those and go, I don't think I'm going to bother this year? Because that's what I would say. Now, thousands of Villa fans will be heading to the capital this weekend, hoping, praying, expending a lot of energy, hoping that they're going to see history on the cusp of being made. And I really hope that they are rewarded, that you are rewarded for your unwavering loyalty. Making the trek to Manchester, Samir Gaby, the show's senior video correspondent, who was among the soulless corporate Johnny-come-latelys who constantly needed to be whipped up into a frenzy by their own players and manager. It's such a strange place, the Etihad. It's in the middle of nowhere. Sterile. There's a Legends Lounge with no club legends. I mean, maybe in 20 years they'll have some. Anyway, enough of me moaning. Manchester City are defending champions for a reason, but this game felt like an opportunity to me. And the game plan, for the most part, worked. I mean, I said during the Newcastle show, keep it tight. Level at halftime is perfect. We got into better scoring positions than they did, according to XG, despite having much less of the ball. And incredibly, maybe most importantly, Villa created 4 big chances and converted only one of them. City created but 2 and converted both. It's a game of moments. Also incredible to me was that we actually won both duels and the tackle showdown. It's hard to do away from home, especially there. So from an overall performance standpoint, these numbers back up that it was one of our better visits in recent seasons. But the same bloody result. I've said on this show before, and this is a little bit of the commentator in me thinking back to narrative and creating drama, but games are like pathways through the forest or even roads that you drive on. And there comes a point when you reach a junction and you have to decide whether you go this way or that way, and that is the big chance. And whether you take them or not sends you on to this path or onto this path. And there could be more junctions over here and there could be none over there. But it's what happens at those junctions in the game that affects the final outcome. Our football club has worked very hard to procure the kinds of players who are good in those pivotal moments. I mean, the more players you have who could change the direction of a game, attacking or defending from there to there, the more games you're going to win. And of course, the manager's role is to put those players and select them to give them the chance to have those moments. And there weren't a ton on Tuesday, but the ones that did come around were of the large variety in a game that was, in retrospect, monumental. Just taking a look at the 11 on Tuesday, I mean, this is all relatively logical. 5 changes means 5 sets of fresh, motivated legs. There's also this game on Saturday to factor, but you know what? Ollie Watkins was sensational against Newcastle, and the choice up front was given to Rashford. And being a Manchester lad, you know, I did think this game was set up for him, and he was ice cold from the penalty spot, but we'll never know the true impact of what it might have looked like had Ollie Watkins started. And Owen Hargreaves made an interesting comment on the broadcast. He thinks that Unai Emery is rotating for the sake of keeping people happy because he doesn't really know what his best 11 is right now. And you know what? I think there's a grain of truth to that. The speculation surrounding both of our strikers' futures is starting to become a thing now, and I'm not so sure that's a good thing. I even saw a rumor of a swap deal between Villa and United for Rashford and Watkins. 40 million for a proven, dangerous striker with pace at the age of 27 sounds like good value, but you got to factor Rashford's wages. That would bring the 3-year total to about 90 million over those 3 years. But you do also have to consider that we're going to lose the Dendoncker and Coutinho wages this summer as their contracts expire. Those two are bleeding us for $225K per week. Watkins' consistency in the Premier League over the last 3 years is extremely attractive to, I'm sure, more than one suitor, along with his very notable professionalism and work ethic. But he's also at his highest market value right now and 3 years older than Marcus Rashford. So the pragmatic, non-emotional me says you're never going to get more for Ollie Watkins than right now. And here's where some of these PSR decisions have to be made, along with, does Aston Villa have another striker in their sights and maybe on the line? Maybe a Liam Delap. I saw his name associated with Villa, because if we're in those discussions, they're happening right now. Monchi's not waiting till May or June. 24/7 Services has an office in Manchester if you're watching this and need some work done, along with their branches in Liverpool and Birmingham. I'm sure there's a little bit of football banter being tossed around the three. But today I want to go back in time a little bit and show you a project from a Holy Trinity show viewer almost right from the beginning by the name of Edward Davis. Now, how this flat renovation came to be is quite a story, and I'm not going to be able to do it justice on this show right now. But needless to say, it involved some terrible family grief and even betrayal in the form of a previous contractor, and I use that term loosely. Paul Hansaker and his crew came in and completely rescued this project. This was a flat that needed accessibility requirements, and it turned out just beautiful. And I know a lot of people are renovating suites in their homes for older parents, and that means wheelchair ramps, custom bathrooms and kitchens with the appropriate counter heights. Edward was really, really happy. And I have to tell you, I feel really proud almost when great work is done for great people, and that I can have a little tiny hand in making that introduction. And that introduction for you is as simple as starting down here. Amadou Onana had an okay game. I remember a couple of rather dodgy passes at the edge of his own box in the first half that didn't quite come off. But one of many reasons why we got this guy, apart from his character and his insatiable desire to improve at the age of just 23, is just how freakishly long his body is. Like, when he wants to stretch full out, he's going to make interceptions and recoveries, and he just takes up so much real estate. Like this moment early in the second half, if he doesn't go full out here, might have been a different outcome, and the game could have changed at a very awkward time. Broken record issue, but Morgan Rogers is a completely different player away from Villa Park, it seems. And on Tuesday, he was having a really tough time winning duels, retaining the football. He got frustrated a couple times, just fell over, hoping to draw a foul, didn't get them, and this will be part of his development plan going forward, being more consistent week in, week out, no matter whether you're at Villa Park or at the Etihad. But I thought our team in general in the front third was extremely risk-averse at 1-1. We didn't try those little balls over the top. We didn't take any risk to try to go and win the game, and I think that's something that needs to evolve as well. Big issue number 3, Martinez miscue. Now, I don't want you to get the impression here that I'm piling on the world's number 1, but here's my question to you. When was the last time that Debu made some kind of game-saving stop. And it would have had to have been in like a 0-0, 1-0, or 1-1 type game where we were chasing a result or hanging on. And I'm telling you, one does not come to mind, partially because Villa has done a good job of stretching out leads. But if I asked you, can you recall a miscue, or perhaps one from the could have done better category? I'm sure one or two immediately come to mind. One of the things I truly admire and respect about our Argentine shot stopper is that he will be the first person to put his hand up and say, that is my error, it's on me, and probably there isn't anybody on the planet who it will bother more than the goalkeeper himself. Do you remember in the World Cup when Argentina lost their first game? First thing he did was he sought a sports psychologist, and look what happened after that. He is taking responsibility for his actions. 7 minutes in, and we're in one of those forks in the road. Ball comes across the box. Bernardo Silva makes good contact. Emi Martinez does not. It's almost as if he was caught between trying to catch it and parry it away, and we've seen that a couple of times. One at Nottingham Forest, for example. In the end, it was being reviewed as a potential own goal because it went off his palms, off his knee, and in. It was given to Bernardo Silva. Now, let's just say he makes the save at that point and pushes it around the post. We can obviously not say for certain that Villa would have gone on to win the game or even tie the game, but we can say for certain it would have been 0-0 in minute number 7, which is better than the alternative, especially away and especially at the Etihad. If the game stays at 0-0, well, it goes in that direction. Maybe Emi Martinez pushes the ball around for a corner. Who knows what happens from there? We may not have even earned the penalty later, because one moment can change all the sequences that follow after it. Now, where I have some concerns about our goalkeeping is, and this is unfortunately the truth right now, Emi Martinez is not being pushed. Everybody else in the squad has a direct competitor in their position, and Emi Martinez does not. And that is no disrespect to Robin Olsen. It's just an uncomfortable truth right now. And what goalkeeper that's good enough to even push an Emi Martinez would ever come to Aston Villa without guarantees of playing time? So we're kind of stuck in this place where we have a big personality goalkeeper and a fantastic resume behind him, World Cup, Copas, FA Cup. But if he makes a mistake on a Saturday, he's still going to play on a Tuesday. Can the same be said for Ollie Watkins, Pau Torres, Matty Cash? No. And so he's playing a lot of games, and then he flies off to South America to play for Argentina, travel, more games. I'm not saying this is a concern yet, but 3 or 4 errors that lead to goals over the course of a season can add up. Big issue number 2, Marcus's misses. I don't even know if he has a misses, but I'm talking about the 2 big chances that fell to him on top of the penalty, which he buried with ease. I feel so much more confident when Marcus Rashford steps to the penalty spot. He just needs to be on the field when they're awarded. The second big chance came in the second half when Stefan Ortega made a regrettable run and was rather fortunate that Rashford didn't get his angle straight or pull it back to a teammate in the box. But it was the 18 seconds in that could have really changed the course of the game. Yuri Tielemans would have had his 8th assist of the Premier League season already had Marcus Rashford just placed the ball 3 to 4 inches to the left. And let's consider what might have happened had Villa scored just 18 seconds into a monumental game. Well, you saw what it did for Villa against Newcastle, scoring 33 seconds in. No team wants to concede inside the first minute. I mean, if Marcus Rashford had scored that early in Manchester against City, it would have stunned an already notoriously quietish type crowd. And then maybe it would have given Villa the bravery to just go and try to get something else or more. It's like playing with house money. At the risk of repeating myself over what ifs, what if Rashford does score that goal 18 seconds in? Yes, City might have come back and still tied it or even won it. They're a good side, but that's the most beatable City side I've seen in a long time. A lot of old legs. Yes, some exciting new ones like O'Reilly, but a lot of key players are missing from that squad, and they have a semi-final this weekend as well as us. And what if we had dug in? What if we had taken that lead to halftime? And then on one of the counters we would inevitably get, as City pushed forward, we converted. That's our away game. Scoring first is a big part of all of our games. And the number one big issue that defined Man City 2, Villa 1, Doku v Desassi. Layer upon layer of narrative and consequence in one finite moment in this match. And before we even get into that, let's rewind all the way back to the summer, or even January for that matter, and ask this very simple question. Is the biggest weakness in Aston Villa's entire squad the right side of our back line? Because if we really were after Herr Trauder late in the summer, that would tell me that they did identify it as a problem and that they were trying to address it. We tried Konza when Cash was injured or at other times throughout the season. We brought in Andres Garcia in January, who is a long-term project, not a short-term solution, not a guy who's going to step in and play 90 minutes every single week. He'd be lucky if he gets to that next year. We seem to be comfortable with letting Kosta Nedeljkovic go permanently to RB Leipzig, which ironically has Herr Trauder in the squad. So in January, we signed Axel Desassi, who is a right-footed center back. He could play at right back, but he is not a natural right back. I thought Desassi was immense in that right back role at Brentford, for example, but he was done at PSG. 2 goals came down his right-hand side in the second half, and they even scored their 1-1 goal down our left-hand side. Is that something teams are identifying against us? Against Forest, he had one go through his legs that led to the 2-1 goal in the second half. I think Cash has been perfectly fine of late, and if he is going to start at Wembley on Saturday, then coming off in the 61st minute makes sense. But the minute Desassi went on as not a natural right back, that gave Pep the ability to say, Doku, you are pacey, you are a difference maker like you were at Everton. I like that matchup. The entire game came down to one split-second moment, a moment that may determine Axel Desassi's long-term future with Aston Villa. And this came after a throw-in by City and a series of passes, and it comes to Jeremy Doku, and I don't like Desassi's body position to start with. I mean, why not try to show him inside, or at the very least, just keep him in front of you? If you're Doku, you have 2 objectives here. 1, you wait for Desassi to dive in and you skin him, or you become impatient in waiting and play the ball backwards to a teammate. And what does Desassi do? He bites. He's been on the park for 32 minutes at this point, so he can't be exhausted, which is usually when players dive in. After that, of course, it goes all the way across goal to a player who has never scored a Premier League goal for Manchester City, but not playing in his natural position as a right-sided player does jar the game winner, as Pep Guardiola wins a football match by playing 7 central midfielders all square-pegged into round holes. And that sinking feeling was back again in Manchester. One of my favorite Led Zeppelin songs is How Many More Times? This sort of creates a similar scenario to last weekend, where we had a huge disappointment and emotional letdown on a Tuesday, then had to pick ourselves up to get ready for Newcastle on Saturday. Asking our team to do that 2 weeks in a row is a lot, but we have the squad to do it. And Wembley is a great motivator. Problem is, it's a great motivator for the opponent as well. There are a lot of numbers on this board, I admit. Some of them got better. VAR awarded us a penalty, which was our 6th league penalty. Not a huge stat, but it does show that we're earning them because we have players who can get into the box and cause problems. I think that number could still be higher. The number that is so concerning, and if we do not achieve Champions League football next season, it could be the number that prevented that achievement. and that is goals conceded in the last 15 minutes of games or beyond. 14 goals conceded in the final quarter hour, minutes 76 to 90 or stoppage time. That's an unofficial number for me, but it's an absolute killer, especially because we've scored 12 goals in that same period. The Sill Hill Brewery star performer was a toss-up between Marcus Rashford and Jacob Ramsey for me, but I'm going to give it to the goal scorer because he was such a danger. Shame he couldn't just be that little bit more dangerous. I'm going to toast Marcus with a Holy Trinity Special Ale, which will be on tap at the Craftsman in historic Warwick on Saturday for the FA Cup semi-final. If you're in the Warwick region, why not drop in? The owners are huge Villa fans. That's one option. Of course, it's on tap at the Sill Hill Tap Room in Aston, where you can also try the new Black Sabbath IPA. If you're not going to London, why not round up your friends, put on your gear, and go to the Tap Room in Aston, because they're offering the Goals for Beers incentive, and I hope the pints are flowing like Eagles fans' tears on Saturday. Well, here we are, my friend, on the cusp of the FA Cup semi-final against one of our bogey teams, Crystal Palace. I don't know if I've ever experienced a weirder season by any Premier League team than Palace this year. They were relegation fodder into early fall. Then they start going on an amazing run where they couldn't be beaten practically away from home, and recently hit for 5 at Manchester City and Newcastle. They're playing Arsenal as I'm putting this together. They have this ambiguous ownership change from John Textor supposedly happening. Long-time recruitment guy Dougie Friedman up and leaves, and Oliver Glasner is rumored to be joining RB Leipzig this summer. And by the way, why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he go for Champions League football, ambition, resources, and this consolidated football division among their clubs led by Jurgen Klopp? You know that Gahey, Eze, Mateta, and Wharton are all going to be on the chopping block in the summer as they try to balance their book, and yet this team will somehow play like PSG against us in the first leg. When I think about who should start on Saturday, I truly wish there was a way to start both Ollie Watkins and Marcus Rashford together, with Rashford coming in off the left. But you know, Unai Emery is stubborn about these things. My must-have is that Ian Maatsen starts at left back, because Ismaila Sarr is quick and he's done us of late, and we need to match him for pace, plus have Maatsen bombing forward in attack. Also, Luca Dean has been awful against Crystal Palace over the last 3 seasons. I think it has to be Mings instead of Pau Torres, just for the Mateta matchup. We need an aerial duelist in this game, and I also can't see a game at Wembley Stadium not including the captain, John McGinn. We have more depth than does Palace. We know by now how they play, but I'm still somewhat apprehensive just given the recent history between the two teams. Considering that the last draw between City and Villa was at Main Road in 1994, perhaps we shouldn't be too surprised that it ended with a Manchester City win. I think I actually did foreshadow a late goal winner for City during the Newcastle show, so I apologize for jinxing it. Shame that I can never jinx myself into a lottery win. Anyway, Saturday is a big day. I'll be watching on pins and needles and obsessing about silly things like, is Crystal Palace really the home team in this game? And why is our record so poor in the white strip? 3 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. Until Saturday, don't obsess over silly things like that. Stay awesome. And of course, up the mighty Villa.